All right, so we're going to get started on the overview of changes to the mass solicitation. Again, this is refresh 32, which is scheduled for June of 2026. And for those of you that do not know me, my name is Dana Rosa. I am part of the solicitation and training division. For the agenda today, we're going to go over the disclaimer, which I will have to read in full, the purpose of the planned action, as well as the mass solicitation changes as they relate to all large categories, as well as subcategories or sins. So bear with me as I read the disclaimer in full. So the purpose of this webinar is to allow GSA FAS to verbally present the draft plan solicitation refresh and related mass modification as a courtesy to industry. All comments on the information presented should be submitted via the Q&A function on this call. GSA FAS will consider all relevant comments and document them, but we are not obligated to respond to any questions at this time. GSA FAS may address some comments during the call or provide responses to relevant questions on the original Interact posting. GSA FAS does not guarantee a response to all questions, but may issue a formal response to industry comments or related inquiries. GSA FAS will make changes to the draft as appropriate. Interested parties should review the final version of the solicitation refresh or mass modification closely for additional changes made to this draft. Again, please submit your questions via the Q&A function so that we're able to capture them for when we post them to Interact within that 1 to 2 week time frame. And then for additional questions after the webinar, please feel free to submit them via the original Interact posting. Again, we will address questions as appropriate. Purpose of the planned action, we're here to give you the various updates as outlined in the advance notice posting on GSA Interact and presented during this mass refresh webinar. Again, the refresh is scheduled for June of 2026. All right, so the overview of plan mass solicitation changes. So we will incorporate the clause and provision updates to include the implementation of Executive Order 14398, which was issued March 26, 2026, establishing that agencies should not do business with contractors that engage in racially discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion practices as implemented through GSA Class Deviation RFO 2025-12, Supplement 26-02. That class deviation was issued April 20th, which revised the the RFO overhaul parts 9, 12, and 22 to align with the executive order and subsequent FAR Council guidance. We'll also implement updates as necessary through FAC 2026-01. We do want to highlight this note that the mass modification for refresh 32 applying the changes is to be accepted by the contractor no later than 30 days after the mass modification has been issued. Again, this modification will implement the Executive Order 14398 and incorporates FAR 52-222-90. FAR 52-222-90 will apply to the contract and to all orders issued under the contract, including existing orders, existing BPA calls, future orders, and future BPA calls. Except for the incorporation of FAR 52-222-90, all other changes incorporated through this mod apply to new orders and new BPA calls issued after the modification effective date. Orders and BPA calls issued before the effective date remain governed by the terms and conditions in effect at the time of award. We'll make various revisions to the SCP FSS-001, which is the instructions applicable to all offers. We will provide a draft attachment before the issuance of Mass Refresh 32 so that you are able to see those changes that will be implemented. We're making a minor update to the language concerning drones, unmanned aircraft systems, which is within each large category attachment of the solicitation. The The revisions necessary to reflect the program office change for the drones program, which is moved from the DoD's Defense Innovation Unit, DIU, to the Defense Contract Management Agency Special Programs Unmanned Systems Experimental. Again, that language will just be updated to reflect that change. In the general information section of each large category solicitation attachment, we will be adding a new requirement. This addition will specify that end of support dates and the availability of security updates must be key considerations for managing obsolete information and communications technology, ICT equipment. The requirement to be added will be applicable to all product offers under the multiple award schedule program. We provide what the end of support definition is, what's applicable to product offers, the GSA's role and contracting officer's authority, as well as the contractor responsibility for end of support management. So you could take a look at the Interact notice to read it in full. And the presentation will also be uploaded to Interact notice within that 1 to 2 week time frame. There will be changes to the joint venture requirements based on the SBA rule change on the mentor-protege joint ventures, which is 13 CFR 125.9B and C, and the SBA coordination. It will be applicable to new offers submitted by joint ventures. The language will be changed in the SCP that a joint venture partner may hold their own mass contract and be a participant in one joint venture mass contract. Right now it reads they could be a participant, I believe, in 3 joint venture mass contracts. So that will change to make us be in alignment with the SBA rule. There will be a revision to the FCP product file. So right now the national stock number or NSN column is present in the FCP product file. That will be removed from the FCP product file with refresh 32. The NSN should only be listed in the manufacturer part number field by authorized AbilityOne resellers, and only if the item is on the procurement list. Other vendors are prohibited from including NSNs in their FCP product file. Okay, now we're going to go into the solicitation changes that are specific to the large category, subcategory, or SIN. So starting with the facilities large category, we had announced in refresh 31 that we would be retiring SIN 311423, which is the non-perishable foods. So refresh 32, we will be retiring or terminating this SIN from the mass solicitation. The industrial products and services large category attachment. So this change is applicable to the hardware and tools subcategory. We will be updating the SIN description and associated instructions for SIN 532310, which is the rental and leasing of hardware store products. So the purpose of this update will implement a new framework for categories classification to harmonize contractors' use of commercial classification systems with mass requirements. The goal is to increase efficiency for contractors who utilize category class pricing and ensure compliance control for individual rental product offerings. Under this framework, contractors using category class pricing must establish a single fixed price for each category class, thereby prohibiting variable pricing for similar equipment within the same category class. And then for the SIN description changes, this red font is what will be added to the SIN description and the revision. And then the SIN instructions, they were pretty lengthy, so we didn't want to include them on this webinar, but they are on the refresh 32 significant changes attachment. And you can see those line in, line out changes. Moving on to the information technology large categories. So under the financial management services subcategory, we will be establishing new SIN 518210GM, which is the Grants Quality Service Management Office Quizmo Marketplace. So this joint GSA FAS ITC and HHS effort supports Executive Order 14332 on improving oversight of federal grant making. So the grants Quizmo Commercial Marketplace currently offers SaaS award management systems, and we will, to mature the marketplace, expand services, and streamline acquisition, the grants Quizmo SIN proposes partnering with GSA to establish this. Again, outlined here is the SIN description, which aligns with the Federal Integrated Business Framework for Grants Management and meets mission needs. Offerings include grant-related tools and services in a cloud environment, services, applications, and modules that help agencies adopt grants Quizmo solutions, and IT professional services and/or labor categories, software, cloud computing, and IT training that support agency adoption. Again, this SIN will be subject to cooperative purchasing, and there is technical evaluation criteria and subgroups being added with this new established SIN. Again, they were pretty lengthy. We didn't want to add them in the webinar, but you can see them on the Refresh 32 Significant Changes attachment. Again, staying with the information technology large category, there will be a revision to the SIN description for the Health Information Technology Services SIN. So 54151 HEAL. Again, you can see the line in, line out revisions here. We're just adding additional, this is just expanding the scope of the SIN for the offering. Again, this SIN is subject to cooperative purchasing as well. Professional services large category. So this is a minor update for the environmental services subcategory. We'll be adding this note to the SIN description for SIN 541620, which is the environmental consulting services SIN. So there's, I think, 3 or 4 other SINs that have this same note. So we're just clarifying this in this one, that services under this SIN cannot include architect engineer services as defined in the Brooks Act and FAR Part 2, or construction services as defined in FAR Parts 2 and 36. Again, this is in accordance with GSA Class Deviation RFO 2025-36. Okay. Moving on to the security and protection large category. So for the security animals and related services subcategory, we'll be revising the SIN description and instructions for SIN 812910, which is the canine training, handling, and caging products and services. Again, presented here is the SIN description line in, line out revisions. Working canines and canine program products and services. And then we have what it excludes. So it excludes pets, companion animals, and emotional support animals. And then we'll be adding SIN instructions that specific mission standards, certifications, veterinary criteria, acceptance testing, and other agency unique requirements shall be established by the ordering activity at the order level. Working canines shall not be listed on GSA Advantage. Contractors offering working canines must utilize the Services Plus file option in the FAS catalog platform. And then another minor update is to the security system subcategory. So we will be revising the SIN title for SIN 334290L, which is the physical access control systems. I think this was left over from when we consolidated. We have that dash legacy SIN, and it was causing some confusion. So minor update, just removing that legacy SIN from the title. That concludes the webinar for the significant changes updates.